You're listening to COB, Conversations on the Business of Brands, with Sudeep Chawla and Sharan Raghavan.
So Sharan, what is this doomsday conspiracy you keep talking about?
It's not a doomsday conspiracy, but it's more an opinion that I hold really close to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it is to avoid the impending doom. Say, let's allay a few fears today
Okay.
that I encounter with a lot of the entrepreneurs I meet. And maybe, if you have the chance, just maybe alarm a few of the listeners.
Hmm.
And I'm starting out with my most provocative statement of the evening to say, your product does not matter to the consumer, and it will not determine your success.
Okay. Product does not matter to the consumers. Okay. I'm not going to take the bait as of now. I'm sure that's your usual either dramatization or rant. So let me first try to provoke you more. Are you saying that if I make an inferior product, it doesn't matter, the consumers would be okay with it, they wouldn't find it out?
No, a bad product will get found out,
Hmm.
but a good product will never get discovered just because it's a good product.
Okay.
So, having a good product will in no way guarantee success in the market.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you can make, the other person can also make. Manufacturing capabilities are table stakes today, especially in FMCG where I largely operate, but in most other industries too. Just by making a good quality product, you are not going to have a strong business. People are not going to find out about your product and come flocking to it because there's just a plethora of options in the market. And I know there is this thing people talk about, right? Differentiate or die. It's all about differentiation. I want my USP.
Hmm.
I think this differentiate or die was coined by Michael Dell.
Hmm.
And I think he's almost dead. But I see a lot of emerging businesses invest so heavily in their MVP. This whole concept of the minimum viable product is taken very seriously, and they get the technical aspects of it, the functional aspects of it to the T. But what it is the MVP. It is the minimum viable product. That is the minimum you're required to do. But how many people get by just doing the minimum?
Hmm.
You need to build up every MVP with a strong brand narrative or something that I call the minimum viable brand. Because you must have at least the basics of your brand in place to give your business a chance.
Hmm.
And the world is full of this. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs who say, I've made a great product, and that is why I will succeed. Unfortunately, you will not. And so I just go into a little bit of theory. So this golden book on positioning written by Al Ries and Jack Trout,
Hmm.
Positioning for Your Mind.
Hmm.
They say, I'm quoting from there, they say, the basic approach of positioning is not to create something new and different,
Hmm.
but to manipulate what's already there in the mind, to
Hmm.
retie the connections that already exist.
Hmm.
Positioning is about taking what is already there and rewiring it.
Hmm.
You won't always have the chance to build something new.
Hmm. Hmm.
You got to find ways to build a narrative, and that rewiring is the narrative.
Hmm.
And in most categories, I might sound very fatalistic here, but it's a truth. Differentiation is almost dead. Even if there is differentiation, it makes little difference to the consumer. If I say I've added this ingredient in my product, somebody else will do it very soon. But by the time the consumer understands the importance of the ingredient, the fad is gone. And the consumer is sold primarily on the narrative of the brand. And it's the emotional hook that brings them in. It's not necessarily about the differentiation itself.
So therefore, you first said that product is not important. Now you're saying differentiation is not important. So then what do you want the businesses to focus on?
Good. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying differentiation is wrong,
Hmm.
right? I'm just saying it is rare, and businesses cannot wait around to differentiate their product to get started. only to find the next guy doing it a lot faster and neutralizes their differentiation advantage. It's not something you can bank your business on anymore.
Therefore, you're referring to product differentiation, right?
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, because most people, when they talk about differentiation, they only mean product today. But differentiation can be driven by a service offering, the distribution method, the relationship you have with your clients, the reputation you're building for yourself, your pricing strategy. All of this could be differentiation factors, but all of them are replicable unless it is tied together with a strong brand narrative.
Fair. Now I can see where where your passion was coming from, because there is a brand narrative coming to the fore. Okay. So uh, would you just rewind back and tell us why have you chosen this topic, and then let's get deeper into it.
It's nice to bring up the why in the middle of the episode, but yeah.
Yeah.
So it's because, like I said, I see a lot of businesses build their capabilities today. And the moment they say, I can do exactly what the market leader is doing, I have a right to win in this category. But that isn't true. They think they can have a similar success trajectory just because somebody before them has done it. They fail to understand that it's not about what they know, but it's about what consumers know what you can do for them. And also, the other factor is that the market leaders have become market leaders today by taking the risk of doing something somebody else didn't do. They did something afresh, and that's why they are market leaders today. And just aping them will not get you the same benefits, because your competition is always going to be better at being themselves than you are going to be at being them.
Okay. So if you're not a market leader, then what is your advice? Should they quit business?
I like how you've taken the provocative stand today. But see, I'm saying they must move a mindset from wanting to ape what the market leader is doing and not just match what the market leader is doing or the other players in the market are doing, but to aspire and plan to do something better. They need to have the mindset to take the risks to reap the rewards that they're looking for. They have to build exceptional, extraordinary brands that speak to the right target audience, period. Today, with the cluttered competition in almost every category you can think of, not taking a risk is actually a far bigger risk than actually taking a risk, if you get what I mean.
That sounds like a fairly risky statement. Could you just repeat it again?
Not taking a risk is riskier than actually taking a risk today.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
by risk, I mean having a clear, sharp positioning for a specific target audience. So I'll give you an example to clarify that better. Yeah, we were all in marketing when Sunfeast launched, right?
Yeah.
And what did Sunfeast initially do? Sunfeast launched without a very clear brand narrative. They called everything Sunfeast. They aped Britannia's product portfolio completely. And then through the distribution strength, they got some categories working. But in Britannia's core, what we call the mainstream biscuit category, they just couldn't shake Britannia. And they wanted to take on Good Day, which was the number one biscuit. Then, I think still is. And they created Mom's Magic. And they tried to hijack Good Day's nostalgia a bit. Even today, people buy Mom's Magic only when Good Day isn't available. It doesn't hold a candle to Good Day at all. But they did something very different in the other two segments. They took Sunfeast special creams and they understood it's the children who are buying it with their pocket money, the cream biscuit category. And they said, I'm going to give them greater volume. They made the cookie thicker, not necessarily better, but thicker than Britannia Treat. And they launched it as Bounce. And the entire communication was through cartoons and Cartoon Network stuff. And that captured people's attention, the kids' attention. And I don't think Treat has since recovered from there, because what they almost doubled the size of the pack for the same price that Treat was offering. And also, what Sunfeast did when they saw Oreo launch and have success as a cream biscuit in the premium category,
Hmm.
Britannia tried doing it, but they really didn't have too much of a narrative to build because they have a eat healthy, think better master brand identity. And
Hmm.
that didn't quite augur well for its indulgence of the pure magic they tried to build.
Hmm.
But Sunfeast very smartly launched a sub brand of dark fantasy. And they said, I'm going to target adults with the indulgent category in cookies.
Hmm.
And they did the replica of Oreo first, then they did the Choco Fills.
Hmm.
And today, I think they are the number one indulgent biscuit brand in India or a cookie brand in India.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's something that they've done by doing things differently, even though they were a late entrant. They've done something new in that category.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that is why they've become market leaders today. And in places, the same, Sunfeast, same company, where they did not do anything different in the good day category, in the cookie category, they had no success.
Hmm.
But when they did something different in Bounce and Dark Fantasy, they've seen stupendous success.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's the risk you should be willing to take for the brand to have any chance of success.
Hmm. But Sharan, if we were to think about those examples, both these examples actually, you're saying we spoke about product differentiation not really creating a difference, and you
Right.
need more levers of differentiation, and therefore, proposition becomes a big differentiator, which helps you create your brand narrative. That is what you were going towards.
Mhm.
Now, both these examples are of brands which, for example, in at least the indulgent category for adults, Sunfeast definitely came up with very, very differentiated products. Yeah, at least those center filled
Right.
cookies, etc., was something that nobody else had done.
Right.
So that is where I think they were able to bring product differentiation.
Right.
However, your treat example is very interesting. Product was different but not so different.
Exactly.
And because they did bounce, you're saying that it was a branded difference.
It was branded. They enhanced the product.
Hmm.
Now, from the time Bounce did this thicker cookie, lesser cream, but more flavorful cream, Parley's also tried doing it.
Hmm.
But Bounce has taken off that narrative completely.
Hmm. Hmm.
And just to go back to the cream fills, the center fill, choco fill example of Dark Fantasy,
Hmm.
there are others also done it now. Even Parley has done the center fills cookies now.
Hmm.
And there are a million local brands who can do the center fill cookie. The technology is available to everybody.
Hmm.
But what do you think of when you think of center fills today? It's
Hmm.
because they had the narrative even before they had the product.
Hmm.
And they've taken over the entire indulgence in the cookie category.
Hmm.
And that narrative is what enables them to even hold fort in the chocofills. They didn't build it on the product differentiation. While that did crack news for the initial bit,
Hmm.
it is the brand narrative that held the entire piece together that they're able to still ride on it today.
Fair. So I think I can relate to this because a lot of the businesses in many sectors that I've operated in recently have the ambition of becoming a strong number two.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's a very valid assumption. For all the listeners out there, it is perfectly okay. You don't need to be a world beater all the time. You can start with the ambition of being a very strong number two. But like Sharan is saying, a strong number two does not mean that you exactly copy the number one.
Absolutely.
You would still have to differentiate yourself. And I think, Sharan, the point that you're making is don't just think product differentiation, do branded differentiation. And that will lead
Exactly.
you to sometimes do something on the product, or it could lead you to do sometimes many things on your stories, narratives, and many other things associated with the product. Yeah.
Right. And what you call branded differentiation is what I call distinctive brand assets, creating very clear, distinct brand assets to tell your
Hmm.
story with.
You're listening to COB, Conversations on the Business of Brands. Your hosts are Sudeep Chawla, marketing practitioner, business leader, and educator to advertising and marketing professionals, and Sharavana Raghavan of Vitriol Innovations, consultants to consumer facing brands and businesses. For more information, go to corpcast.net. If you find this podcast helpful, please help us by telling your friends and rating us.
So, Sharan, I remember in one of the previous episodes we had spoken about not differentiating or segmenting people demographically.
Right.
We had said that don't go for terms like millennials.
Yes.
Yeah. And we had then spoken about the fact that you should look at different vectors, etc., etc. In fact, that episode of ours also won an award.
Yes. That's a wonderful plug.
Yeah. No, thank you for Anchor for recognizing that particular podcast as one of its spotlight winners for September. But coming back, so now for any brand, once they are looking at differentiation, they would have to first look at segmentation. Yeah,
Right.
so that they see their consumers, etc. Do you have any particular segmentation that makes sense, which the brands can pick, and then they can really build upon it?
I'm not necessarily talking about segmentation so much today, Sudeep. I'm
Mm-hmm.
focusing on identifying the right kind of people to build your brand for. It is a little bit in targeting, but I'm not taking the targeting mindset here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at any category, there are different kinds of consumers who consume the category.
Yeah.
First, you have these innovators, the people who are very eager to try something new all the time and be at its cutting edge, be the first triers of everything that is launched. Second, there are the early adopters. They are interested in new products, but they will justify why they are interested in these new products. They want the advantage that they will get or the better experience they will get by trying the new product that's in the market.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the early and the late majorities. Now, these, I think the early and the late majorities would make up roughly about 60% of the business. Now, this is the biggest chunk. And they are the pragmatists who adopt the proven products because everybody else is saying so. It's been proven in the market. They're not risk takers. And they will buy it only if the others have said it's a good thing. And finally, you have the laggards who are very reluctant to adopt to anything new unless they absolutely have to. So in very commonsensical general marketing wisdom, it says target the mass in the middle, which is the early and the late majorities.
Yeah.
But they are not going to budge. They're very difficult to budge. So in any category that you're operating, you should build for either the innovators or at worst the early adopters and get them to bring in the others. So when you do that, it can be a little scary because at first you are shrinking your target audience to such a small segment of the entire universe that you can focus on. But this is not deprioritization. This is just focusing. And these consumers who try your product first will bring in the other early and late majorities. And that is the kind of focus you need to have to know who you're building your brand for.
I just want to clarify this. So in my mind, when I think about it, I thought that founders or builders should build it for the masses, but market it to the early adopters or innovators, because those are the guys who will try it out. And once they find it okay and they start mass trying, then your early and late majorities would follow. Would you say we should market to these guys, early adopters and innovators, or should we build for them?
You should build for them because who is harder to please? The harder they are to please, the tougher it is for you to win there. And the moment you won with them, the rest of it following is easier and your competitive edge is that much stronger. Because if they cannot be shaken, the rest cannot be shaken. So building for this niche makes it that much stronger for you. Yes,
Okay.
you will market to the masses to scale, but that's not who you will start with.
Okay. So suppose now I'm a business
Hmm.
and I identify who are going to be my early adopters.
Right.
What's the next step then?
Once your positioning is sorted, your target audience is defined,
Hmm.
you start building your distinctive assets, which I
Hmm.
spoke about a little earlier too. I call them collateral. They are unique brand assets that tell your story or tell elements of your story, even when you're not saying anything.
Hmm.
Now, this is the softer aspects of your brand: the tone you use, the personality you demonstrate, the colors you use, the visual cues, even the sound cues. So, which brand says ting, ting, ting?
Britannia. Yeah.
Exactly. So, that's how you build. So, that's a nice, even slogans fall into this. But
Hmm.
an example just came to mind
Hmm.
when you remember the South Africa World Cup football,
Mm-hmm.
when this song "Waving Flag" became a big hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That wasn't even the official song.
Yeah.
And this Kenan was the singer.
Yeah.
And there was a Shakira song, which was the official song for the World Cup,
Waka Waka. Yeah.
Waka Waka.
Yeah.
And Coke tied up with this Kenan singer
Hmm.
and made him modify his song
Hmm.
to include this bit, which was supposed to be for oh, eh, oh, eh, oh. And
Yeah.
that was supposed to stand for open happiness of Coke.
Oh, nice.
And that is a brand asset. So when you hear that oh,
Hmm.
apparently consumers are triggered to have Coke because they're reminded
Hmm.
of the brand because of the tone. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure how true it is and how strong the consumer must be to be triggered by the sound.
Hmm.
But I thought it was very interesting that they even had this thought process to do it to an existing song and make that so popular that they didn't have to advertise it after that.
Yeah. I've seen this now happening slightly more frequently, Sharan.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody quoted this example to me, and there's this known of mine who does this for a business. They call it as Mogo, which is musical logo.
Right.
And I've now seen, for example, if you walk into an HDFC ATM today, when
Hmm.
you take out the money, it plays a sound.
Right. Very
It's a
desi
sitar
sound. Yeah.
sound of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is their Mogo. And they have now
Hmm.
started putting this into everything. Similarly,
Right.
Reliance, you travel in the metro here,
Mm-hmm.
you will keep hearing this Reliance sound throughout.
Hmm.
Yeah, from time to time. So I've
Okay.
now seen a lot of brands investing into some musical signatures such
Right.
that like you're saying, it's not about making new connections but rewiring old ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, when birds chirp, it can be nothing but a morning sign for you, early morning nature sign for you. So there are certain cues that already exist within us
Hmm.
that brands can take to establish the rewiring for us.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And these brand distinct assets, they become the drivers of salience, and not
Hmm.
just for brand awareness,
Hmm.
but the full width and depth of all associations a brand can have in the consumer's mind.
Hmm.
The whole point is that you sit in the consumer's mind, and when they think of your category, you pop into their head. You're the only one who pops into their head.
Hmm.
And that is driven by the distinctive assets you can build for yourself.
Hmm.
Why
Hmm.
go very far? Our alma mater of Cadbury. Anything today in chocolate in India, any
Hmm.
product that includes chocolate, becomes believable only if they have the color purple in some form or the other.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that purple belongs to Cadbury.
Hmm.
And today, Cadbury is a synonymous a term for chocolate in India.
Hmm.
And that is a distinctive asset.
Yeah.
And this also, see, people don't remember ads anymore.
Hmm.
So the research says if you show people just 10 ads, 10 different ads, less than 16% of them can recall the first ad
Hmm.
from just the 10 ads or even link it to the right brand. So when there's so much clutter, your distinct assets do all the work for you. There's this controversial professor, Byron Sharp. He wrote the
Hmm.
book, How Brands Grow.
Yeah.
In that, he says the most important part of any buyer's purchasing process occurs before the buyer's conscious evaluation of the brands they choose.
Hmm. Hmm.
The buyers, in effect, decide not to consider a vast majority of the brands, actually, not even consider. And most of the time, they just consider one brand.
Hmm.
And that is driven by the distinctive assets that they're frequented with. I worked on Tang for a long time,
Hmm.
for about 3 years, I think.
Yeah.
And the first ad we did was drawn from Tang's international campaign, because Tang is huge in Brazil.
Hmm.
Tang is even bigger than Coke in Brazil.
Oh,
So
nice.
Tang
Okay.
had done a full recycle campaign in Brazil.
Hmm.
And we said, we're going to do the same thing in India. We
Hmm.
did this huge ad, huge production. We had kids building 3 monkeys with recycled items. And we were very proud of the ad. But then all of it got misattributed, not even to immediate competition, but to Horlicks.
Hmm.
Because Horlicks was talking about kids taking charge at that time. And there was also a South Focus brand then, I think 2011, 2012.
Hmm.
And next year, we did something drastically different. We did
Hmm.
something very simple. Everywhere Tang's orange was shown, the Tang branding was the most visible element.
Hmm.
People said Tang the most number of times, and people saw kids drinking Tang about 3 or 4 shots in the ad.
Hmm.
It is that simple, boring ad,
Hmm.
but that worked wonders for us.
Because it was distinctive.
Absolutely. It could not
Yeah.
be mistaken for any other brand after that.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so that's the importance of driving brand distinctiveness.
Okay. Fair. So you made a point to say that, you know, only banking on product differentiation is possibly too risky.
Mhm.
So therefore, go for branded differentiation. And then you said that choose a niche audience or the appropriate audience, and then go for building brand collaterals.
Yes.
Okay, sounds logical.
Hmm.
Then why do you think a lot of the businesses and marketers are not doing it?
I would love to blame all the engineers who are into marketing today.
Hmm.
Aren't you one of them?
Yeah, I'm an engineer for sure. Yes, at least by education.
So there's a book called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Kahneman.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, he goes into a little bit of theory. He says system one and system two thinking.
Mm-hmm.
System one is something that happens very instinctively in a subconscious level. There are decisions we take in a very subconscious level. Let's say you're driving to work. You know every day what path you take, where you turn, where you even park sometimes if you have designated parking at office.
Mm.
You're happy to take a call, and then you're comfortable doing it. But let's say there is a roadblock in your regular route. Now you start looking for a workaround. At that time, would you be as comfortable taking the call? Most people aren't,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
that's broken your subconscious thinking. Now you have to do conscious thinking. Now this conscious thinking becomes your system two thinking.
Yeah.
So he says that's the difference. And we as marketers do such system two thinking and expect people to behave so rationally
Mm.
in making their purchase decisions. But let alone consumers, even human beings are not rational most of the time.
Mm. Mm.
So while we think for a consumers in a very rational process, it doesn't happen that way.
Mm.
The idea is for a brand to seep in to people's system one thinking, which cannot be done merely by differentiation, which is actually a system two property. The product differentiation is logic driven. Therefore, it's system
Mm.
two property.
Mm.
System one is a subconscious. So your
Mm.
brand distinctive assets of your brand, the distinctiveness of your brand will dictate how well you can seep into their subconscious. And
Mm.
that is why we make these mistakes we do.
Fair. Fair. I get the point. So therefore, uh, you know, not only are we saying that you should look at branded differentiation and create it first for a specific niche audience by building distinctive collaterals, but you design them in a manner such that consumers don't need to go through a high level qualitative logical thinking. It should subconsciously occur to them,
Yes.
and if you build it that way, then, as Byron Sharp says, you already excluded a lot of your competition from their consideration.
Yes.
Hmm.
And that's the only way you can build a brand today in the clutter that we all face.
Yeah, that's very logical, Sharan. I think for a change, you have not honestly tried to attack a particular theory, but what you've done possibly is give a build up to kind of solve a practical problem that many of our listeners might be facing today, because they are entering categories where they would want to differentiate vis-a-vis the incumbents in one way or the other. If they follow this path, I'm sure it'll lead them in the right direction.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thank you for listening to COB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's COBBCAST.net.